The Lupercalia was one of the most ancient and enigmatic religious festivals of Rome, celebrated annually on February 15th in honor of the pastoral god Faunus, who in this context was worshipped under the name Lupercus, a protector of flocks against wolves, and whose cult was closely connected with the legendary infancy of Romulus and Remus near the sacred cave known as the Lupercal at the foot of the Palatine Hill. The festival took place in one of the oldest sacred landscapes of Rome, near the banks of the Tiber River, where tradition held that the twins born to Rhea Silvia, daughter of Numitor of Alba Longa, had been abandoned by order of Amulius and later nourished by the she-wolf whose den was believed to be located in the Lupercal cave. The association between the festival and the foundation legend made the Lupercalia not merely a pastoral ritual, but a celebration tied directly to Rome's earliest origins and to the survival of its mythical founders. Ancient Roman writers believed that the Lupercalia predated the founding of Rome and preserved customs from the earliest Latin and pastoral communities that inhabited the hills of central Italy before urban civilization developed. According to tradition, the festival was either established by Romulus himself or inherited from earlier inhabitants of the region such as the Arcadians, who are said to have followed the hero Evander from Arcadia in Greece to settle on the Palatine Hill generations before the Trojan arrival of Aeneas. In this version of the story, Evander introduced the worship of the rustic god Pan Lycaeus, whom the Romans later identified with Faunus Lupercus, and the festival preserved elements of these early Greek and Italian religious practices in a uniquely Roman form. The ceremonies of the Lupercalia began at the Lupercal cave, where priests known as the Luperci gathered to perform the sacred rites, under the supervision of Roman religious authorities. The Luperci were divided into two traditional groups called the Luperci Fabiani and the Luperci Quinctiales, whose names were connected with the aristocratic Roman families Fabi and Quincti, suggesting that the priesthood had deep roots in the earliest political structure of Rome. During the late Republic, a third group called the Luperci Juliani was added in honor of Julius Caesar, demonstrating how ancient religious traditions could be adapted to new political realities. The ritual sacrifices performed at the Lupercal included the offering of goats and a dog, animals associated with fertility and protection against wolves. After the animals were sacrificed, two young noblemen were brought forward and their foreheads were touched with a knife stained with sacrificial blood, after which the blood was wiped away with wool dipped in milk, a symbolic act representing purification and renewal. According to Roman custom, the young men were then required to laugh, a detail that ancient writers interpreted as a ritual affirmation of life and vitality following the solemnity of the sacrifice. After the sacrificial rites, the Luperci cut strips of hide from the sacrificed goats to form thongs known as februa, from which the month of February was believed to derive its name. The priests then dressed in minimal clothing, often wearing only a goatskin girdle, and ran through the streets surrounding the Palatine Hill, striking bystanders with the strips of hide. Women, especially those hoping to conceive children or to ensure safe childbirth, willingly approached the runners to receive these blows because they were believed to promote fertility and protect against barrenness. The running of the Luperci created a dramatic spectacle in which ancient ritual and public celebration were closely intertwined, and the route of the procession followed some of the oldest pathways of early Rome. The Lupercalia also carried strong associations with purification and renewal, making it part of the broader cycle of late winter festivals that prepared the Roman community for the coming agricultural year. The ritual beating with the februa was understood not as punishment, but as a form of sacred cleansing that drove away harmful influences and restored vitality to the community. In this sense, the festival combined pastoral symbolism with civic meaning, linking the protection of flocks and fields with the well-being of the Roman state. One of the most famous historical references to the Lupercalia comes from the final years of the Roman Republic, when Mark Antony, serving as one of the Luperci in 44 BC, publicly offered a royal diadem to Julius Caesar during the festival. The event took place in the Forum Romanum, before a large crowd, and Caesar's refusal of the crown was carefully staged to demonstrate that he did not seek kingship, although many observers suspected the display was a political performance. This dramatic episode illustrated how the Lupercalia, despite its archaic origins, remained an important public event even in the highly political atmosphere of the late Republic. During the Roman Empire, the Lupercalia continued to be celebrated, although its meaning gradually changed as the city became less connected with the pastoral world that had originally shaped the festival. Emperors sometimes supported the celebration as part of their efforts to preserve traditional Roman religion, and the continued observance of the Lupercalia demonstrated the strength of ancient customs, even as Roman society evolved. Writers such as Ovid describe the festival in detail, emphasizing its connection with the she-wolf and the early history of Rome, while also noting the strange and primitive character of its rituals. The Lupercalia survived longer than many other pagan festivals and was still celebrated in the late 4th and early 5th centuries AD, long after Christianity had become the dominant religion of the Roman Empire. Christian writers such as Pope Gelasius I criticized the festival as a relic of pagan superstition and argued that its fertility rituals were incompatible with Christian morality. In the late 5th century, Pope Gelasius addressed a letter to the Roman senator Andromachus, defending the decision to abolish the Lupercalia and insisting that the ancient rites no longer served any meaningful purpose in a Christian society.